anything. They only land with it. That's how you know.
Oh man. Yeah, it was something for sure. But no, we were very lucky to have 6 really incredible schools, some of the best. And I believe you might have been muted too, Bepic, on your end of
yeah,
things.
OBS
people
loves
heard you on my
changing things
stream,
up.
at least.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
well,
they can
all know what we're talking about then. R6 LAN.
Yeah, so it was the 3rd iteration of the Concord Passion Series this semester. We got to host 6 of some of the best schools across Collegiate R6. I think we ended up getting number 3, number 8, and then number 16, and then a miscellaneous like top 40 for the other 3 teams. So, you know, fairly competitive LAN, a few upsets here and there, but it ended up being the grand final that we all predicted. Cincinnati versus Virginia Tech. Cincinnati made quick work out of 2 maps in a best of 3, and that was it. And then I casted CR6 playoffs last night. So yeah, R6 is back in the full swing of things. CR6 also had a really long break, so it just kind of works out really well for me that we got to host the LAN and then playoffs started for nationals. So yeah, no, I had a blast. But you know, that's about the other half of college exclusive that we don't talk about other games too much. So I'll wrap my point up.
All right, but are you running a 4th consecutive LAN this weekend? That's everyone wants to know.
Oh my gosh. Well, so that's actually the funniest part, is that I am not running a 4th LAN, but I will be going to another school for a competition once again. So Concord has to go to ETSU to go play in the RLCS GSL stage on Friday, and we have to be back at ETSU for CRL Championship Sunday. Because we were having internet issues on campus. And in my opinion, I made the call. I said, guys, we should not be in West Virginia. We should be as closer to Central servers as we can. So we decided, you know what? Let's go to Tennessee. Luckily, shout out Jay Shell. Jay Shell is a legend. He is so cool and so nice to us for letting us get to go to his place. So yeah, we'll be at the ETSU lab on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday.
All right. Well, I didn't even know about that. I was expecting just to know I'm going home for Thanksgiving kind of thing. But okay, yeah, stay in traveling. At least you'll be closer to home. But
I gotta go back still because you know the way that the varsity trips work. Got to go back Sunday and then Monday I get to go home. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
All right. Well, let's talk Collegiate Rocket League. We'll let you think about your busy travel schedule a little bit later on. And where we are going to start is let's talk about the Esports Foundry Report, because it came out about a week and a half ago or so now, and we didn't talk about it on the last Collegiate Exclusive Podcast episode, but I think it's significant because it shows a lot about the current state of Collegiate Rocket League. And there are a couple of pages that I want to hit on. This is totally free for any of you that want to read through the 100 and something page report yourself. It covers everything about Collegiate Esports in general. It's very thorough. Chris Postel and the Esports Foundry team do an incredible job. But what I really wanted to show is how popular Collegiate Rocket League still is. For all of the doom and gloom that you'll hear from time to time on Twitter, sometimes on this podcast, Rocket League is still the most popular collegiate esports. It is #1 by a pretty decent margin here over Valorant, and this is the percentage of collegiate esports program game offering. So about over 90% of collegiate esports programs offer Rocket League here, and this is the you can see the colors show the last 3 years of numbers, and so Rocket League is still growing.
Yeah, it's a super big deal to still kind of get a status check on where things stand within our community. I mean, we can all moan and groan about the landscape as much as we want, or about the publisher support, but at the end of the day, this is what's so special about college esports, is that grassroots events are what are propelling these numbers. Like, there is simply not a SEL for Overwatch. There is simply not a let me see. Even ECAC only offers maybe half of the games on this list, maybe add a few more on top of that. Like, at the end of the day, there's only a few games that are truly universal across K through 12 and college, and Rocket League is easily the most traversable one next to Smash. So Either way, really happy to see Valorant up there as well. Shout out DreamHack Atlanta. But it's a sizable margin. It's a good sign of where we're at.
And then the next page also shows an analysis as to why the Esports Foundry think that Rocket League is the #1 collegiate esports program. And so it says a lot of the things that we kind of already know, how accessible it is, smaller teams, it's easier to market just because it's not a shooter. And so people that aren't inherent to esports and video gaming in general, it's much more palatable. And then jumping down as well, this is page 80 in the Esports Foundry report, and I wanted to show how this is kind of a humble brag for the SEL and the NEL, but why we cover on this podcast specifically, not just CRL, like Champ League mostly just covers CRL with using other events as talking points, but here TJ and I want to cover the other LAN events that are happening, the regional stuff, the regional competition, and the smaller events, because look at this. This is respondents that talked about their top 3 forms of competition that they were most anticipating during their year of competition. This is data from last year, but I think it still holds this year. And if you look at the highest numbers, like regional leagues and conferences is #1 over publisher-backed leagues and competition, which is towards the bottom. LANs are up towards the top. And national conferences, I think that's the most reasonable one of the top 3 choices here, TJ. But this is why we do what we do right here.
Yeah, I mean, the LANs and the national leagues, those are the kind of the gimmies, but I was very happy to see that the regional leagues are taking as much of a stride as they are. I mean, but it makes perfect sense. With how tight and how packed some of the developer leagues and even some of the national leagues can get, maybe a team doesn't want to play in NECC Division 3. Maybe they would rather play in SEL Tier 1 or be on the outskirts in Tier 2. And that's a really big deal. And again, it was the point I was just making about what makes Rocket League so special, is that's what makes college esports special, is the amount of kind of local grassroots support, not to mention for schools looking to fund those leagues. I'm sure whenever you see a rivalry like a Oklahoma versus South Carolina instead of a Oklahoma playing a Northwood, it's 2 different deals. And that's been an argument since the dawn of college esports. So no, I'm really happy, and I think all this data makes sense.
So feel free to give it a read here, Esports Foundry report. You can look it up, and it'll be free to access. Just got to put your email in. But what we are really here to talk about, despite our other coverage of regional leagues and side conferences and LANs, is CRL. It's still a pretty big talking point here. And top 4 have been confirmed. There are still, I believe, a series or 2 that still have to be played out, but top 4 are confirmed here. And these aren't up-to-date records, what I'm about to show you, but I will show the up-to-date stuff in a second. But this is from the official RL Esports account on Twitter, and top 4 are set: Northwood, St. Clair, Concord, and Winthrop. I don't think anyone's too shocked that these are the top 4 teams at the end of Split 2, and then this graphic is a little bit out of date with the final records, but Winthrop and West Virginia 2 games apart in the #4 spot, which is kind of wild after how Split 1 went.
There's a very scary world where if Winthrop would have gone the extra distance with a team, or West Virginia simply handled business against a team, I believe both of those schools went to very confusing Game 5s. I think Winthrop had a Game 5 series against Baylor. I think West Virginia had a Game 5 series against Ball State or Baylor, or potentially both. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but that's my point, is that if either one of those teams, I mean, that's the league play kind of dynamic right there, is that it's not like they made a mistake, but if you don't win confidently, then that's how close things are going to get. And for us, it would have been a very uncomfortable conversation as well if we didn't end up beating Winthrop. And also, if you're wondering what game is missing, it is St. Clair versus Northwood, which I believe is slotted to happen tonight.
Okay, yeah, that is the one game actually that's yet to be played, and so that still has seeding ramifications, I do believe.
It does,
because if St. Clair wins in 3-0 fashion, it looks like it would have to be, they would get in over Northwood, because head-to-head is the second tiebreaker after game differential, if memory serves, and then it could also affect you guys going 4-2, or maybe not. I don't know. I try not to do the math live here, but here are the official up-to-date numbers as Winthrop is cemented in that 4th spot, and then Northwood, I think on the Fall Championships page, actually they're set as it's Concord that you guys were set as the 3 seed. So yeah, it does determine the top 2 seeds.
Yeah, which I actually believe that the only way, if you don't mind going back to what you just had up before, Bepic, the only way that I think things change is if St. Clair 3-0s Northwood.
Yeah.
Because they would have the same, let's see, game differential, and then it would go head-to-head, which I have my own takes on that, but, you know, say whatever you will about that tiebreaker format. But that way it would be both teams at +10, and then it would go to St. Clair because of head-to-head. So if St. Clair 3-0s, then it's going to be a really interesting kind of start. I mean, I think everyone was expecting Northwood to kind of take control of things, but St. Clair kind of got in a tear later on. I won't lie, my guys unfortunately didn't stop that. If we would have won, then it would have been locked in. It's just us and then St. Clair and then Winthrop and then Northwood #1. But, you know, got to keep things interesting for content in the last week of league play. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Again, I am 90% sure it will be tonight. I don't know if St. Clair is streaming it because I believe their League of Legends team has a championship tonight that they're streaming. At least from what I was seeing earlier, funny enough, they do play Winthrop in that game as well. I also think it's a NECC Grand Final. So on that note, we'll see who ends up streaming it, because I know St. Clair is busy with that tonight. But hopefully Northwood will stream it. We'll get an update maybe at some point throughout the day. But it'll be an interesting one. But I like to think Northwood gets out of that one maybe 3-1.
And they do B streams. The St. Clair program does. They've got a pretty elaborate production facility, and so I would be surprised if that went unstreamed. But I don't have the official answer. I was looking at their Twitter right now, and it's actually a lot of League of Legends at the moment.
I didn't see it.
No announcements on that, but that is how CRL shook out for those that have been living under a bit of a rock the last couple of weeks. And so we'll do our predictions on that here in a little bit, and in the podcast. But another headline that just popped up kind of today, I had heard that this might be happening previously, but Geo made it official today. This is WCTC, another one of those pop-up teams, actually from Wisconsin as well. If you're thinking about Edgewood as the best example of a pop-up team that has a really good semester and then steps back a little bit. Really great personalities. Geo is apparently leaving the team, and I'm not going to speculate as to why, but he is leaving WCTC and put out this really sweet tweet about him and Ty, Ryan, and Neeks. Ryan's the coach of WCTC. And so it's a screenshot of a Discord conversation where he's just thanking his teammates for being great, and it made me sad, dude. I really love this WCTC team, and it hurts me that they only get one semester together.
I mean, this one hurt, to say the least. And I hate the whole dynamic of whenever personal life like kind of forces you to look elsewhere instead of the situation that you're able to put yourself in. Because Gio's a very deserving player of the team that he is in and the program he is in. I mean, you know, we got to meet these guys in Atlanta. They were all a lot of fun. They were all, I mean, literally playing the game the entire time. Even when they were knocked out, they were still playing ranked. They actually were queuing 6-mans together at one point in Atlanta. I've never seen a team do what they do. So, you know, say what you will about WCTC and where they rank, but that doesn't matter because this team truly is #1 when it comes to their dynamic as a family. And it's really inspirational to see. So I hate it for Geo, but I also wonder maybe WCTC, I wonder who they're going to be able to bring into that family dynamic next. But Geo is a huge contribution as to why that dynamic exists. And
they still do have matches to play. I don't know if anyone that was reading while I was scrolling along there caught it, but they do have one more LAN. I believe that's the Wisconsin Collegiate Rocket League LAN that they'll be playing in. So it's basically them and Carthage at the top. I think EW Stout puts up a fight from time to time, but it realistically is Carthage versus WCTC there. So these guys are still prepping for that, and that is still a LAN to come. But likely the last one with this WCTC trio that I think peaked at like 26 or something like that in the colleague poll. So I mean, for having 2 freshmen, and I'm pretty sure Ty's a junior, like peaking at 26 in your poll, that's not a bad semester at all for your first one together.
Yeah, as a startup team, they did a lot, and they still got the invite to go to DreamHack Atlanta, which is one of the biggest events of this semester. So no, I got nothing but respect for those guys. Wishing them the best for sure.
All right, well, let's move along now, talking LANs. CECC's West Regional played out. We previewed the groups that weren't very interesting last week when we were looking at it. But auto bid to CECC for winning this bracket right here. 8-team, single elimination. San Diego State comes out on top. That grand finals is a 4-1 over GCU that San Diego State won. So SDSU guaranteed to be going to CECC, and their only real competition was Grand Canyon, and even that wasn't a close series in the finals. GCU, they just beaten Indiana in NECC the week prior, but came up short against San Diego State. So we get to see our boys playing at CECC later on in the year, TJ.
Yeah, I think it's only deserved because there's only so many events and LANs out west that these teams get to compete in. San Diego State didn't even get to play in the Xfinity event 2 weeks ago, which is also a mostly Western style LAN. It was Oregon State in the final, just to throw an example out there. So the fact that they only got to come to Atlanta to compete at a LAN, I think it's only fitting they get to represent the West. And no hate to Boise State. It's very odd that they didn't get to play in this, or they didn't decide to play in this. It makes me wonder kind of what's going on that side of things, or maybe if PEC is going to become an issue, or, we saw 3 different championships overlap in the span of 2 weeks last year whenever May came around.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if there was a few others in there as well. But hey, regardless, San Diego State takes advantage of it. I was one upset away from being a GCU believer again in the NECC West side of things, but unfortunately for them, they couldn't do much against AZAP and company.
And even if PEC is given an auto bid to CECC, that's still not a guarantee for Boise any longer. With Baylor in there now, that is not Boise's league to fully control. Even Michigan State, I think, could beat either of those 2 teams on any given day. Syracuse as well, if they keep it going. So, I don't know why Boise didn't compete in the West Regional, because typically the last, I think, 2 years, the West Regional was held at Boise as an in-person LAN. So that's a shakeup there. And while talking about CECC, I'm expecting, thanks to some insider information, some bigger announcements in the next couple of weeks about the official formats, the size, location, etc. But they did put out an announcement about their spring regional qualifiers coming out today. And so we do have official dates for the weekends of the Eastern Open into Regional, Midwest Open into Regional, happening February, then early March, and their typical last chance qualifier, which is traditionally at the end of March. And then Market Bid, which is interesting that they didn't announce where it is or what the state is. I suppose that's not to not give away where the location is going. So bit of a change there, as it's typically been a Texas qualifier, as CECC has been in the state of Texas the last several years. So the official announcement here, and I have, with that insider information, seen that it's going to be a bigger tournament teams-wise. So there is a lot to look forward to with CECC information coming out in a bit.
Yeah, the only thing that struck out other than the market bid state being announced is the fact that the LCQ is going to be so close down to the middle of the season. The LCQ has always been just a fun thing to watch, let alone where most of the upsets seem to come in. And it's also dead smack before April. So there's going to be no excuse for any teams who are looking to make it to what we believe is Texas. Who knows, right? The only other place I've seen Esports Foundry and company get involved is up at Ohio State. So I think the options are pretty slim in terms of where they may be going, but we'll have to wait and see when the announcement comes out. But in terms of the rest of it, I'm just excited to kind of see what goes on. I'm expecting Northwood to go grab that Midwest spot. East-wise, it's not going to be easy.
And this is actually really good for a Maryville, because Missouri is technically in the Midwest region as well. And so with Maryville, we're expecting them to get a new third for the spring. If Midwest the regional was in the fall, they would have to qualify some other way. And that with the leagues that Maryville plays in, probably wouldn't have been a real possibility, considering they won't be in Super League in NACE because of the forfeits this year. And I don't know, it's getting weird for Maryville. So they've got their path to CECC right here, should they be able to get through it. But you're right, Northwood right there as well. Midwest is stacked as ever. So 5 Stars is saying in chat that he'll clarify some in DMs as well. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, 5 Stars, if it's about the Boise not competing or what you're clarifying. So I guess we're getting a Collegiate exclusive from Twitch chat. So we'll see what comes of that. But that's CECC, big national championship happening later on in the year, usually the first weekend of May. It's what it's been for since it was in Atlanta, so I don't expect that to change. But you down to talk Fall Championships, TJ? Because that's the big item on our docket.
Yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and dive into it.
All right. Well, we talked about the top 4 already. Everyone should know who the top 4 is. It's double elim, 4 teams, and I guess we can't assume what those first matchups are going to be. Should we just assume Northwood go 7-0 and that it's St. Clair versus Concord?
I would assume, I would be appalled. Even if St. Clair wins it and they don't win it outright in a sweep, it will go to Northwood. Because round differential or game differential is the first tiebreaker. So the odds are pretty slim. I think we can make our predictions assuming that's going to be Northwood, Winthrop, and then St. Clair and Concord.
Okay, so in that case, if I were to ask you for predictions, are you just going to say Concord win it all in 3 perfect sweeps, or what are you thinking happens on Sunday?
No, I seriously, statistically, and looking at how we have been playing, you guys know Crispy and CMOS are 2 series away from going to Copenhagen the week after this. These guys are hotter than I've ever seen them. They are 1 days of play away from having career-defining achievements and some of the best out of anybody who's in CRL right now next to Garrett. So I will say that we will handle St. Clair. They've only gotten us once the entire semester, and they only got us once last semester as well. So I think we handle St. Clair. Again, nothing's easy, and I believe those are they all should be best of 7s, I believe. I didn't triple check. I should have.
Yes, all matches are best of 7s.
Yeah, I didn't get a check for the first round, but I knew the rest were. So, yeah, I think we get out of that St. Clair series probably 4-1, 4-2. Northwood Winthrop is such a confusing one because it's gone to Game 5 twice. Northwood have won twice, but I actually believe that Winthrop are kind of in a slump right now. Not to mention they also had to play with a sub in NACE. They lost out on some extra games and a championship there. So this Winthrop roster is not really getting to play too much outside of their RLCS warm-ups and quals, obviously. So everybody's going to be hot, but it's about team dynamic, and I think Northwood's got that down every day of the week. So I think Northwood once again wins it. I think it also goes to 6, and then from that point on, I think Winthrop beats St. Clair. I think we're going to probably lose to Northwood and uppers, and then I think we handle St. Clair part 2. Or sorry, we handle Winthrop part 2, I pray. And then grand final wise, we're gonna, let's bracket reset Northwood. Why not? Let's have a long night. That's a 10 p.m. final, by the way. That is a 10 p.m. grand final, by the way.
Look if it doesn't show the times. I didn't even realize the schedule. What time does it start on Sunday?
We don't start till 5 o'clock on Sunday, which don't ask me why, because I have no idea who thought that was a good idea. But no, I'm going to pull up the sheet so I can quadruple check. Okay. I believe every single match is going to be streamed, which is why it's like this. I'm waiting on my master sheet to load. Yeah, here we go. So 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock upper semis, 7 o'clock loser semis, 8 o'clock upper final, 9 o'clock losers final, 10 o'clock grand final. Now, I don't see the rules on bracket reset or not, but I will be shocked if CRL does game advantage. So I'm 99% sure it is bracket reset. So yeah, no, it's gonna be a night. Not to mention that we have to drive back from ETSU's campus that night regardless. So we're in that one for the long haul.
How long a drive is it from ETSU to Concord?
Yeah, so luckily it is only 2.5. So that's why J Shell's the GOAT. So it could be a lot worse, but it's not that bad.
Still, a 2.5 hour drive after a long day of competition is that's rough. So We'll see if it does come to that. I think I'm honestly in agreement with your predictions there. I think you guys versus St. Clair, despite the level of play recently in the split 2 matchup in the best of 5, I think that's a matchup that historically has favored Concord, and so I think you guys do get the revenge match, especially after the BBB Grand Finals. Like that's a team you're familiar with playing, and then Northwood looks like the best team in CRL. They just have a way of turning it on, and when they are playing Rocket League at this high a level, it feels flawless with their challenge game and how patient a squad they are. And so I think stylistically, their matchup against Winthrop really favors Northwood. And so even though it has been close, I think Northwood still do come out on top. And it's hard to pick between Winthrop and St. Clair in the lower bracket. That's probably, of the entire bracket, the matchup that I have the least confidence in. And so that's a real toss-up in my mind. And if I were to lay a prediction down, I'd say probably something juicy like Winthrop in 7, because neither one of those teams is going to lay down and die in a series like that and take the 4th place. No matter how stacked this bracket is, 4th place is still finishing last. And I think we've got 12 of the best competitors in all of CRL in this bracket. So I think Winthrop in that lower bracket semifinals, a good shout, but dude, Northwood looked dead set on winning this entire thing, and that would be great because it gives us Concord, then St. Clair, then Northwood, still 3 of the top 4 teams that have consecutively won CRL championships across the last year and a half. I think that's a great story.
Yeah, it's a fair take. You didn't clarify who was going to come out of losers, though. I got to get that out of you.
Out of
Who's
losers?
gonna survive?
I think Concord. I think you guys
be close.
beat Winthrop, but Concord versus Northwood is what I'm expecting in those grand finals, because we have seen Concord win 2 major events already this season, and yes, I'm talking about ECC and Bluegrass Boost Battle. Those are the major events. No, I'm just kidding. Scenic City Invitational. Did you play in ECC, by the way? I don't think I've got that to run a show.
I played everything in that league. So yeah, no, I got my stats on lock. I was grinding that one out.
So with that ECC championship in mind, Concord is on a tear of winning at the moment. And I think if you look at these 4 schools, Northwood and Concord both have a legacy of turning it on for championships. And so I fully expect that to be the grand final. But man, Northwood looks so good right now, and I don't expect them to give up that grand finals easily.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, and if everybody wanted to say, hey, maybe Winthrop gets the best, that's fair to say, because we've only gotten to play Winthrop 2 times, and they got us once, we got them once. But that's the hard part about these teams who don't go to LAN, is that, you don't get to play them too often. Northwood's the only one who breaks that mold only because they are in NECC. So we'll keep an eye on it. But no, I don't mind going split on the predictions. I hope that it's a us Northwood grand final. That's about as cinema as a thing you can ask for.
And in the chat with those predictions, 5 stars has given me info that's he expects, and I would expect this as well, the Mountain West Conference to get a bid to CECC while we're talking big championships. And so Boise State, I think, still has a pathway there. So that's the caveat probably with Boise State not competing in the Western Regional. But yeah, a big it's championship season. Like the fall, this Sunday is just kind of a taste for what the spring semester is going to be, with all of the LANs that are set up, with all of the Alphabet Soup Conference actually having something to play for, not just prizing NECC and a super conference bid in the spring for NACE. That's pretty much all you've got to play for in these major conferences, outside of the PCL LAN that's coming up in December. And the 8 teams, or 7 of the 8 teams, I believe, are set for that PCL LAN, which we're going to talk about next, because that's happening at Akron's campus on December 12th and 13th, I think, is the Saturday, Sunday. TJ, I don't know if you've seen the results from this, but there was some, and this is a reason why you need a seeding committee to determine your groups at the start of the season, but some stacked top 32 matchups in that first round. I'm going to crop a little bit before I put it up on screen.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the most public tweet that came out of this. So T-Han made a wonderful tweet talking about his success over Syracuse with his boys. Also, Memory will be playing on LAN because he's also been playing here in PCL. So that's a really big deal. Now, granted, it is not the full lineup. I believe T-Han said that it was Kinsey, Memory, and Proto, I think is what he said. Like, Krasix is not playing. So that'll be really interesting to see how a team like that takes on a colder team this semester, like an Akron. But also what really confuses me with the way that some of these matchups worked out was, like, for example, like USF versus Robert Morris, and then Syracuse and George Mason had to play each other. Columbia WCTC is a weird one. Fisher and Maryland almost went the distance. So, I'm a little concerned and confused as to how in the world some of the seeding happened, but regardless, I think that you would expect all of the teams who are in the top 8 who are going to LAN, assuming that Cumberland will also make LAN, I think it's fair to say this was an expected list. Even the Columbia game over WCTC, we've ranked that Columbia team lower, but that's because they literally don't play in anything. They are still extremely talented, and I think on paper they do beat WCTC, but again, they don't play in anything, so we'll see how it goes, but this on LAN should be fun. I don't think it's going to be that easy for Northwood. Cumberland's had a tough time on LAN, but Akron, outside of BBB and CECC, normally you can count on that team to cause some upsets. In fact, they did beat Northwood on LAN last semester, so we'll see how that one goes.
And I think my biggest talking point out of this is how bad I feel for teams like Maryland, WCTC, and Syracuse especially. Because if you look at this field of teams and you pick out the top 8, I think you've probably got Syracuse and either Maryland or WCTC in there, depending on the time of day, time of year, and whatever your analysis is. Because, like, USF, good team, but probably not top 8. Brock, probably the same. And those are teams that got easier round 1 matchups just because of the draw. And I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast, how PCL's groups got crazy. Like, what was the 3 groups? I'll have to pull it back up, but the 3 teams that were in the same group that should not have been in the same group. And so that causes a number 3 seeding that is assigned to a team that probably doesn't deserve it, because Northwood, Syracuse, and Columbia College were all in the same group, which forced Columbia into 3rd place, and thus they get WCTC, who finished in 1st in their group. They went 7-0, and your reward for that is playing Columbia.
Yeah, not to mention that George Mason and USF were in such weird seeds because for some reason the tiebreaker went to USF. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. Or no, sorry, I take it back. USF beat George Mason 3-1. I did not catch this, so I apologize. It looked like that it looked like it was Krasix, Memory, and Proto who played that game, from what I'm seeing. Or I can't tell from here because you can't see everyone's true names. I'm guessing based off their first names.
Yeah.
But no, shout out to Yag, who has been kind of a sleeper member of the Rocket League community, at least in the college side of things, and gets the USF, who just lost SAP, by the way, gets USF over the hump there. So, hey, that one game just changed the entire bottom side of the bracket. So, you hate it, but that's college esports at its core.
So their listed roster for that USF George Mason match was Trent, which is Krasix, and then Zachary S. and Proto. I don't know who Zachary S. is. T-Han's a typical viewer. I mean, if you click on the team, Memory, his name is Michael M. on PCL.
Oh.
So they might have been playing with a sub for that one, and that in turn caused them to get Syracuse in that round 1, which cost Syracuse a LAN appearance. And we watched them place top 8 in BBB pretty recently, so that team can ball on LAN. They were a game away from top 6 there. So, maybe growing pains with PCL. Maybe they institute some sort of seeding committee. I think NACE does it fairly well. They've got a seeding committee that is involved in making sure their bracket is better seeded, though they do have some parameters that might give you some more odd matchups with regards to how they weight Super Conference. But that's a conversation I don't have enough information on to really talk about. So that's PCL. That LAN's happening here in a couple of weeks. It's actually kind of the last major event of the fall semester before we all break for Christmas and then get to recuperate before spring.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well keep things moving along because we are on a shorter time frame than we are most of the time, because there is also a few other lands to talk about. I guess we can start with the Carolina side of things.
Yeah, C3, the Carolina Esports League is hosting their LAN championship this weekend, and their League OS is not updated for the LAN bracket. So unfortunately, I think we'll just have to keep this a verbal conversation and kind of promo it that way. But if you're a fan of Carolina Esports, then definitely check out the C3 Esports League. Their championship's happening at NC State this weekend, and so you've got some of the better teams in Carolina's CRL that'll be competing there. And I don't have a list. I was kind of counting on League OS to have been updated.
I have a tweet for you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
It's in our lovely channel. I can go ahead and start reading out some of the matchups while you get that thing set up. So first off, very interesting sleeper matchup, or I won't say sleeper matchup. These teams have been on the hotter side of things. It'll be UNCC versus USC. So that one right there, with the way that UNCC has looked this year, they've been needing a big win for a while now. It goes back to last semester where, yes, this team is talented, but Bala has only gotten to play certain events. Bala did not get to go to DreamHack Atlanta for reasons that I don't believe that we have a confirmation on. It's probably better for us not to comment on anyways. USC, I believe that they are the hottest team coming into this entire LAN, because I am also 99% sure that that is the Winthrop Academy roster that will be playing.
It is. Yeah, Winthrop Garnet plays in C3, so we're not going to see Garrett G rock up and own the entire LAN, though Phantom still might. So we'll hold our judgment on that. But yeah, South Carolina and Charlotte, they're probably the two favorites, with the Dark Horse label assigned to Winthrop Academy and Clemson. UNCW have been playing some close series. I think they beat Northeastern recently in CCS, and so they're a team that I think can hang with one of the better teams that might be having an off day. And then the other three, unfortunately, Greensboro, I don't know who UNCA is, and then NC State are probably on the lower side. But I think it's really cool that we have a regional LAN that has good production quality that'll be happening this weekend. It'll make for some really good viewing.
Yeah, I also found this tweet because Somber will be on the desk for
sir.
this one, which, as you mentioned, high-level production quality. Yeah, no, Somber's going to be leading the charge as a Carolina native, as he deserves and as he should. I'm expecting a really good show from that guy and this entire C3 crew. They haven't let us down in the past, and I can only imagine what they're going to do this year. But it should be fun. I unironically think that a UNC... I'll go with a USC Winthrop Academy final.
Ooh.
I think that right there would be beautiful.
Okay, well, hey, you got to factor in Knight's mom on LAN. That'll power up UNCC.
True.
That's her energy's infectious. But that's happening this weekend. I think C3 Esports League is the Twitch channel if any of you want to view it. Definitely check it out. But in terms of even smaller regional LANs, actually, I just wanted to highlight it real fast. I saw this on Wikipedia, actually. I haven't seen many advertising materials, but the Collegiate West Coast Series is hosting a 6-team LAN at the San Diego State Esports Engagement Center, and you can't see it's off to the side, but that's the venue, and these are the 6 teams playing. It should be a pretty decent LAN. Like, I mean, SDSU's obviously a good team. GCU can play them closely, hopefully better than in the West Regional. And then Arizona as well is a pretty solid team. Arizona State, not too shabby either. We watched them in CCS, and then I don't know a thing about CSUN and Loyola Marymount, but hey, it's another cool West Coast LAN for these guys to show their stuff at. No, that's not a big prize pool. I think it's $300. It's still cool. We got a West Coast LAN out here.
Yeah, without Boise State hosting a West Coast LAN, it's been a really good year for the West Coast teams. I mean, honestly, like they've gotten 2 LANs within one semester, which very rarely gets to happen, I feel like, without Boise State's involvement. So no, I'm really happy for these teams. The only thing that I think is going to catch a lot of us off guard is that if you go back up to where the rosters are, you'll notice that the other 4 schools made it in purely on points. I think Arizona and Arizona State, yeah, they've been hot in CCS. They can have it. But I'm very curious as to how San Diego State was the one who got in on a tiebreaker, and then how was GCU the last chance qualifier team? I mean, full respect to Puffer Fish Guy on Loyola Marymount. I just haven't heard of these guys, so I don't know kind of like what happened in this league. But hey, now that they're all on LAN, I feel pretty confident in saying that GCU, San Diego State, Arizona should be providing us quite the show.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this league. I just saw the LAN pop up and wanted to highlight it. I'm sure 5 stars could fill in some of our knowledge gaps here. But regardless, happening on Saturday, I think is the 22nd. And okay, 5 stars said that they didn't play an event, but the other teams did, so they got more points than them. So there's your solution. So that's happening this weekend. Definitely check it out. And I'm gonna do a shameless self-promotion because this just came out half an hour ago. But I wrote an article breaking down the 3 major LANs of the CRL season this fall semester for College Esports News. I'm gonna put that up on screen real quick because I think people should give it a read if you haven't kept up with all of the LANs that have gone on this fall. CollegeEsportsNews.org is the website. And I also wanted to show off this picture of Sap and Hammy Crackers playing at DreamHack Atlanta because this is one of my favorite pictures that I've ever seen come out of a LAN all time. So shout out Landon F. Do you know who Landon was at DreamHack? Was that Neon or Kai?
That is Neon, correct? Okay. Yes.
So shout out Neon for getting this image, but I went through and broke down all of the LANs that happened, the major ones. I stuck this one in there for you, TJ. But this is a good article, collegeesportsnews.org. People go check it out, and that's the extent of my shameless self-promotion. So we can get back to our postseason discussions. I think NECC is next.
Yeah, well, and I'll selfless kind of plug myself as well.
Do it.
I think that unironically, this has been the best semester of LAN photos, I will say, and I am extremely proud to be involved in the article. Obviously, Bepic wrote it. It's a masterpiece. Make sure you go check that one out. Also, Bepic, I think the best part is that we were involved in all 3 of these LANs. And that right there, I think, is the most rewarding part about what we do is that, like, you get to write about this, you get to talk about your involvement, I get to go brag and do whatever I want to do about it. But also, it is such a good showcase of all the different areas where action was going on. I mean, these are 3 different LANs in 3 separate states. And then Bepic also here included every other major LAN that's been going on this semester. It's been a really... are we missing one?
I think there were some that I missed, some smaller ones, but this is everything that I could find reasonably.
Well, regardless, it is absolutely incredible the amount of information that you were able to put together. So everybody should give a mini round of applause to Bepic's side of things. I'm sure it's a wonderful article. I'll have to read it tonight. But as we said before we went live, I'm not much of a reader, not much of an intellectual. But for you, I'll do it. For you, I'll do it. But no, seriously, it's been such a good semester, both from the media side and then also from the content side as well. Also, Landon, if you want to know where to find the article, you can look up College Esports News. I believe they have a website they can get this article, or you can get to Bepic's article too. So go straight there, go to the website. You can also find it on Twitter as well. But yeah, no, I'm sure it's an incredible piece, Blake.
I will retweet the link right now on Twitter for you, Landon. So go check it out. If you can't find College Esports News online, then go to my Twitter. It'll be there. But let's talk NECC because we've only got 20 minutes left before TJ has to go to other responsibilities. But look at this. Division 1 playoffs. Indiana Tech keeps it going. Yep. These guys are NECC demons. They beat Fisher and an Ole Miss team that was on a tear themselves, beating schools like St. Clair, Oklahoma Christian to get to the upper bracket semifinals. They ran into a wall of Indiana Tech. This might be the story of the Alphabet Soups this season is Indiana Tech.
I think also this entire NECC bracket is going to be the story of the season this fall. There's been a lot of upsets that make absolutely no sense. Like Ole Miss takes down OC. I'm not going to lie, because of the internet, St. Edwards gave us a slight scare. A tiny bit of a scare. We were down 2-0 in that one, I won't lie. But outside of that, it's going to be a really big proving ground. Like Cumberland goes down early. Who knows how they're going to look? OC is having a tough end of the season. Fisher's having a really, really tough end of the season ever since DreamHack. So, you know, and then you see down here that Cumberland is going to do their business, OC as well. And so we'll see how the rest of the games go tonight. That is at 8 p.m. Eastern time that you're going to see all 3 of those should be played. I don't think anyone had to reschedule.
Bluey is saying that them versus Northwood might be rescheduled.
Oh, okay.
That just happened.
In that case, then the losers bracket will at least be moving on in the right direction. So we'll have to keep a close eye on how that one goes. But also, again, like, it's crazy how this bracket got sorted out. So I talked to the NECC seeding guys about how this bracket was seeded, because I saw that we were 2 as the only undefeated team, and I was like, all right, guys, let's have a conversation here. But what NECC told me is that these spots were predetermined based on group placement. So, for example, we were the Group B 1 seed, so they had us at 2. Then the Group B or Group A 1 seed became number 1, which is Indiana Tech. And then Group A 2 seed was, I believe, Northwood, I think, which is why they're on our side of the bracket. And then Group B 2 seed was OC. Group B 3 seed was Cumberland. You can go on and on and on and on and on. Anyways, that is why the bracket looks the way that it does. But I'm really happy for Indiana Tech, who's getting to take full advantage of it. They guarantee themselves the top 3. I'm really happy for those guys.
Yeah, this might be the best example of like a good regular season performance actually really helping a team when it comes to the postseason, because Indiana Tech, if they drop one more series, could be playing like Northwood first or be on your side of the bracket, but instead they give themselves better matchups because of their number 1 seeding. And I love when that actually happens in playoff brackets, and it's not some crazy shenanigans affecting a 1 seed with a bad matchup. But yeah, we'll cover this again in 2 weeks when we record in December, when it's all said and done. We might actually have our next recording the night of the championship, so we'll see what happens. But that's going on in Division 1. Division 2 is equally as interesting, I think, for all my Eastern heads out here, because Charlotte beat South Carolina. Florida has made it through Conestoga and St. Clair Gold to keep their hot streak going. It is Charlotte versus Florida in the upper bracket finals right here.
Well, I will say, I think we talked pretty highly of Florida when we were making our predictions last week. But on the USC side of things, I'm not exactly sure what happened against Charlotte. Going into the Carolina LAN as well, this is a really big deal for those teams. Not to mention that if things keep on progressing, they may actually be playing each other in losers on LAN. Because if UF beats Charlotte, they drop down. I believe, Bepic, the losers final, what time does it say that it's on? 'Cause it's cut through.
December 1st is the lower bracket final.
Aw, okay, well, that's lame. Don't get to play that one on LAN. But regardless, some of these teams will be in the Carolina LAN this weekend. Like, for example, USC Winthrop plays tonight. They will see each other. Again, obviously, they're going to see Charlotte. But yeah, what a weird one, to say the least. Unfortunately, Kennesaw B had to drop out.
Yeah.
Conestoga finally has cooled off. But once again, Bepic, I have a very sneaking suspicion that Winthrop Academy might have another late semester surge. They just might. Call me crazy. But I think with the way they've looked this year and with the way Phantoms looked, I could see them making a run.
I don't know. I think that's St. Clair Gold's lower bracket to get out of. Like, losing to Florida is kind of forgivable when you look at what Florida's been doing recently. And while it won't be easy, Cleveland State into one of South Carolina or Winthrop Academy is going to be a very tough matchup. It's all tough matchups. But I think St. Clair Gold is my favorite probably to get out of that, because South Carolina's been inconsistent. I mean, you look at the SEL playoff brackets where they had that random Game 5 loss to Bruton Parker Academy, and now here losing to Charlotte, which these are good teams they're losing to, but when South Carolina was reaching the high of, I think, a couple of appearances in top 3s in CRL Opens, and then you have losses like this. It's worth talking about how their ceiling and their floor aren't necessarily close right now, and I could just as easily see them making it through the lower brackets of the championship here as I could see them losing to Winthrop Academy here.
I really don't know where to even start with predictions or ideas. I mean, I like to think that the upper side, I would really like to think that if Florida can beat St. Clair Gold in 5, then they're going to make it to that final without an issue. But I like what you said at the beginning of your point, that St. Clair Gold through losers is a very convincing argument. But with the way this semester's been, honestly, give me USC. Give me USC making it all the way through losers. As much as I want to see Winthrop Academy succeed, give me a USC Florida. Give me an all-SEC Division II Grand Final for, I believe, what would be the first time ever that an NECC Division 1 or 2 final's been all SEC. So you know what? Let me have it.
I can't even remember. That's a fact that I don't have stored back here. So we'll fact check that later. But on the Western side, or Western Central, sorry, we got Carthage and Davenport Red in the winners final after GCU beat Indiana here. A nice little upset, and then they took Carthage to Game 7. So GCU showing us what they're made of here. But Davenport Red and Carthage, I don't think I'm too surprised to see this. Southeastern Oklahoma is a good team. I think they won NECC Div 2 West last year, or West Central, because I'm pretty sure that was over Indiana Tech at the time in the spring. But again, I don't want to say something that isn't true. But Carthage, Davenport Red, I think definitely are the top two teams here. I would expect that rematch of the winners final in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what we both agreed upon last week. What really kind of saddens me is Indiana having to FF in losers.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if maybe there was a reason why they lost to GCU that then led to an FF. Who knows what's going on over there, right? Also, unfortunately, we start to see the change of Purdue. It's not Enchanted season anymore. So unfortunately, they can't keep going on. They lose round 1. But outside of that, I mean, I'm really just expecting, based on what we've seen, I think GCU will find their way out of that first matchup. I think that SE will find their way through there. But again, I cannot see Carthage or Davenport losing to anybody but themselves. And honestly, give me Davenport.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good prediction, honestly. Those guys are hungry to prove themselves. Like they've been playing with their sub and Nace, and so those conversations had to have motivated them with people talking about their losses there and how they haven't held up. But let's see what happens against Carthage. We'll keep an eye on that one. But let's talk Nace as well now, because the Super Conference is confirmed for the spring. It was the top 8 in fall playoffs. That's really the only thing that teams were fighting for in Nace this fall, with no prizing, no fall lands, nothing like that. So you're fighting for Super Conference. So we've got our 8. I'll be playing in Super Conference here. St. Clair, ETSU, West Virginia, Bruton, Parker, Akron over Winthrop. We discussed that last week. And then Ball State has continued to win. They beat Cumberland, they beat Baylor, and Akron's next, I guess.
I mean, if I'm being really honest, I think that Ball State had simply a really bad closed qualifier seed. I do not believe they should have been the 8 seed next to Baylor as the 9. I mean, I'll still stand on that to this day. And it only helps my take look a little better that they keep on winning. Ball State is a true, not top 8 team. In my opinion, they are a true top 6 team, and they're showing it against the entire nation.
This is Ball State Red. This is their B team.
Okay, I take it back. What am I even talking about? I'll just stop talking in that case. Good for Ball State Red, as I am very, very confused as to why in the world Baylor and Cumberland. Okay, you know what, BePic? I'm just now even more confused. I actually, credit to variety. Must be the variety effect. I'll just stop talking.
I mean, we can look at the rosters oh no, this is the starting team. I could have sworn the B team. Yeah,
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, my bad.
That's what I thought. All right, anyways, I'm going to get back on my high horse. Yes, Ball State Red is a top 6 team in the nation. I'll stand on it. And so all these wins are expected. Now, granted, 3-0 over Baylor, didn't expect that. Maybe a 3-1, maybe a 3-2. But beating Cumberland, they've been really cold this year, unfortunately, ever since Split 1. So the rest of it seems reasonable. But we're going to see Ball State Red in that final.
I think I saw them as the 14 seed and just confused the colors again, because I have done that already. I did that with Davenport. They're also a black and red A and B team.
Yeah, they're reversed.
Yeah. So fun to keep track of. But yeah, I think them being the 14th seed is a little wild. But that's also what I was talking about earlier with the parameters of having to seed around the Super Conference, and then Ball State and Akron not being Super Conference teams. They played in, I forget the name of it, but it's like the ESC or something like that.
Yes, and so that is what it is.
They had, okay, sweet. They had their traditional sports conference is what they played in NACE. And so that's why Akron is the 7th seed and Ball State is 14 because the super conference squads, like even LCU didn't beat a single good team in NACE this season. They were the 10 seed over Ball State. So yeah, that's... You see the seeding maybe a little bit confusing, but that's the reason for it. So that's what's happening. It's Ball State and Akron to play St. Clair in those finals in NACE, which it's just to say you won NACE. There's nothing you're really fighting for, but I still think winning NACE is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, for some of those schools, those conferences do matter. Like for Ball State and Akron, they literally put the MAC in NACE. That is a conference championship as far as I'm concerned, whoever came out on top of there. So for some of the schools, there's something to fight for. But no, I agree. Until we kind of get to the spring, a lot of this is just kind of null and void. Not to mention that I don't think there's been an announcement about a NECC LAN this year yet. We obviously expect there to be one, but we have no idea what capacity will it be in. Is it going to be the top 8? Will it be by points? Will it be by spring placement? I don't think any of that's been revealed yet based on my memory, so who knows what the fall is for. I'm just going to assume it's for the singular championship.
Yeah, most spring lands haven't been announced yet. Like SEL, NEL not announced yet. NECC's not announced yet. I imagine PCL will probably tease if they have a spring land or not at their fall land.
ECAC as well.
ECAC as well. But yeah, let's move along. We only got 10 minutes left in our recording, so I wanted to shout out CCS because we have covered CCS a little bit on the podcast. It's just kind of been overshadowed by a lot of the other leagues this season. But Akron Gold wins again in CCS. For those that don't know what CCS is, which you probably do, but it's basically imagine the traditional sports basketball formats in Rocket League. It's all D1 schools. You play non-con play into conference play into conference championships into a big 64-team bracket. And we'll kind of touch on some results here and there. But TJ, the big story is Akron Gold win again. I think it's 4 in a row now, winning CCS.
Yeah, I was just about to say that makes them back to back to back to back, which again, no shocker that Akron Gold takes care of business here. Now, this is Ball State Black that they had to play.
Yes, this is Ball State Black guaranteed.
We can 1,000% confirm that. Yeah, and also shout out to Akron Gold for taking care of business because this bracket was not easy. I mean, you see they had to play Florida, who beat them on LAN not that long ago. And then what did they do? No, 4-0, absolute neck down. And also, I believe against Maryland, it was a game 7, I think.
Yeah, shout out Maryland.
So big shout out to Akron Gold. Like, this is their league. Like, you can make the jokes about Kentucky being an Akron LAN. Maybe not anymore, but who knows what the next year will provide. But CCS, it is a Akron league. Absolutely. This team is the most tenured and composed. They deserve this win, and they earned it all the way through.
And I think if I were to look at other stories here, Florida over South Carolina is a significant result in my eyes. And South Carolina over Winthrop Academy as well is significant in my eyes, considering the NECC matchups we just talked about. Because this is essentially the same level of importance, I would imagine, for these teams. You want to win CECC as badly as you probably want to win NECC Division 2. So I think pretty sure pricing is about the same, if not better, in CCS. And so Florida beating South Carolina in 7 is a pretty significant result. And I do also want to say, as we look at the other side of the bracket, San Diego State, I believe, had to forfeit somewhere 5 stars. Feel free to correct me, but I have to crop to make sure we can all see these results. But Wichita State, top 4. I think that's another good one. And I'm not certain if they played with Knight or not.
I would assume that because they made it this far that it was with Knight. I would be shocked if they did it without him. But actually, I'd take that back because their 4th would be... Who would their 4th be?
It's either Aqua Exo or Pickle or Kappa or...
that's who I'm thinking of, is Kappa and Pickle. Yeah, those are still talented players who we've seen on and off LAN. Also really funny guys as well. Really love that team dynamic. So yeah, no. Regardless of Knight or not, I think they're equipped to make the run that they did. I will go out on a hot take here, and I will say that this quadrant of the bracket was a lot easier than most. I'll go ahead and throw that out there now. But also some shocking results. Like Missouri, I don't know. Did Bubs end up finishing out this season, Bepic?
I'm fairly certain he is done. Like he was not playing even in CCS.
Yeah, so that's a really confusing one. 5 stars, you're going to have to let us know who played you guys in that Missouri matchup. But that's a big win without Bubs for them. And then on the other side of things, Wichita State, Arizona, yeah, fair play. James Madison, I think, needed something. Like with how up and down their semester's been, they needed something. Getting a top, let's see, they got top 8 in CCS. Yeah, you'll take it if you're James Madison. You had some decent wins along the way, like the Game 7 against Pitt. Now on this side of things, yeah, Syracuse, this is the one... Oh, okay, thank you. So that would be Gavilan, Aqua Star, or Steers, and Nano?
Yes,
I think?
Yes.
Okay, well, in that case, then yeah, good on Ball State. And I'm going to take back my statement. This is definitely the easiest little mini part of the bracket. So shout out to Ball State, but also they deserved it because they were probably the 1 seed, or the 2 seed, I mean, going into it.
Okay, so 5 stars. I had forgotten exactly what he told me in DM. So they went up 2-0 over Missouri and then FF the rest of the series. Okay, that's what it was, because he told me they had FF'd and then I saw the 2 games. So I guess I thought I had misunderstood, but that is what happened. But hey, Missouri's still kicking in CCS, still kicking in general. I am glad to see that. Shout out Oklahoma. Real Albedo's in chat. He's always a loyal viewer. So I got to shout out Oklahoma for taking San Diego State to 7 here. That's pretty good for Oklahoma, who, I mean, winning over 7 against Grand Canyon is also a pretty good result, I think, all things considered, with Grand Canyon getting some big wins recently. And so, yeah, I mean, CCS, always a good place for some significant results, but, I mean, mostly it's an Akron Gold run league, and if you want a safe bet, you predict Akron Gold to win it all. So those boys just keep winning. I mean, great performances at DreamHack and BBB like we talked about last week. And then now into CCS, winning again. And Ball State has actually beaten them once or twice this season among all of the leagues they could have potentially been matched up in. So it's one final say for Akron Gold and being the best B team in CRL.
Yeah, especially going into what's only going to be a more packed and more competitive spring with all the roster moves and rumors that we're expecting.
Yep.
It's a big win to go ahead and get your stake in the scene of things now. So good on Akron Gold. But also I hope for CCS sake that maybe we get a few other maybe big D1 teams in there. Or maybe like we see some upgrades against the Winthrop Academies. Or maybe Baylor takes a trip in there. Who knows, right? But we'll have to keep a close eye on it. It'd be really funny if Baylor got a B team and JT got to take CCS, but we'll keep an eye on it going into the spring.
The JT Pac-Man duo will feed families in CCS. I'm ready for that if that is the roster change that we see happen for Baylor. But we'll talk more about that probably in January once those announcements start to roll in. But I think it's time for some accolades of the week in our final 5 minutes here, because it's been a relatively quiet week, I think, all things considered, with what we've been going through the last 2 months of CRL. But you want to start with your awards of this episode, TJ?
Yeah, mine were kind of an audible, I won't lie. I did not really know what I wanted to do, so mine are pretty standard. For my team, I'll go with my most expected one. Give me Ball State red, not black, now that we got that out of the way.
Yes.
To go on a run in NECC or NACE is such a big deal. Like, for example, 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, probably would have gone to Ole Miss if I had to. You could give it to Indiana Tech if you really wanted to. But with NACE and the way that bracket is folded out and the way that Ball State is poised to go, I really like that team right now. And I think that, in my opinion, they're my favorite to win it. I would also believe it would be that roster's first and only ever NACE championship, because by memory, I believe it's always been a St. Clair dominated thing. Or at least in the history over the last 3 years, whenever they sign. Or Maryville, true. So on that note, give me Ball State to go hopefully take not only their first NACE championship, but as my team of the week.
Okay, well, I think on my team of the week, I'm also doing a bit of an audible. I'd wanted to shout out ETSU first, but I'm going to do both of mine at once. So my team of the week, I'm going to go for their performance in NECC, Indiana Tech. I think that's a win for them in a last month that hasn't had many big W's for the boys. BBB was a struggle for Indiana Tech. They didn't make playoffs there when I think they were expected to. And so for them to be having the success that they have been, NECC, now guaranteed top 3 in one of, if not the most stacked Division 1 of all time. They're guaranteed top 3, got a shot against Northwood, and then whoever they end up playing either in lower finals or the grand finals, they look like a legit threat in that league. And then ETSU was going to be another team that I wanted to shout out, but I'm going to narrow that down to my player of the week and shout out Landon. Because on the SCL broadcast this week, and this is total regional bias right here, I want to shout out Landon for playing his final series in CRL on the SCL stream against Cumberland. And unless you count the SCL tier assignment series where ETSU beat Cumberland, which I kind of don't, they hadn't beaten Cumberland at all this fall semester until they did it to claim top 4 to the upper bracket of SCL playoffs, and then send Cumberland to lowers to play a South Carolina that was looking sharp on the night. So my player of the week is Landon. My team of the week is Indiana Tech. So those are my accolades.
Yeah, well, I'll give him a pat on the back when I see him on campus tomorrow as this week's Collegiate Exclusive Player of the Week. Mine, on the other hand, I don't believe that we have, or at least I don't believe I have done Akron Gold outside of maybe Milio whenever they won the Akron, or whenever they called themselves like Akron Glue or whatever the heck it was, or what the other Akron name. I can't even remember. Akron Bold or whatever it was. Anyways, on that note, this player I've always been a fan of ever since he got signed. He's the newest signee to the Akron system outside of 5-Up. He's always been the quietest, but in my opinion, he's always been the most mechanically gifted. So my player of the week goes to Oxy. Again, it is CCS. Say what you will about that league, but Akron, you don't just go back to back to back to back in any league. So really big respect for them, not to mention it is a D1 league. It's a big deal for the politics of the space. So I'm going to give Oxy, even though I don't know how well he played. Didn't get to watch the entire series. Only got to watch a little bit of it. I'm giving it to Oxy anyways.
And I mean, hey, if you want to like lump in BBB and DreamHack Atlanta into those results, like Akron Gold, they for not being on top of the CRL world, not playing in the fall championship, they're kind of on top of the CRL world right now. I think when you're looking at results to expectations ratio, so I think that's absolutely deserved. And that is the last segment of the Collegiate Exclusive podcast for this week. TJ and I will not be recording next week because I think we both want some time with our families for Thanksgiving, and so we'll be back the week after to talk kind of where NACE playoffs went, where NECC playoffs went, maybe preview some grand finals there, and whatever else ends up popping up in the next 2 weeks. Yeah, CRL Champs, we'll know who wins by that point. So TJ, you got any final thoughts before we do sign off for the evening?
No, but I will say this is the best we've ever done on the timing of an episode.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty impressed that we actually made it through on time. But no, we seriously appreciate everybody who keeps tuning in. I'm not going to lie, the schedule has been a little more inconsistent than what we would wish for. A lot of that is due to my personal side of things, so don't take it out on Bepic. My schedule has been absolute hell recently, but no, I'm just glad that we still get to come together, talk Rocket League, and we get to put on a good show. It's been 15 episodes, which is, a cool little mini milestone. So, we're excited to keep this thing moving. There's going to be a whole lot of news, and the way the landscape's going to change within the next semester. All I'm going to say is CRL and Collegiate Esports in general is only going to get crazier. So seriously, I wish everybody luck in what's left in their seasons, because once we get done with CRL and NECC, that's it for us this year. So I'll be watching everybody. I'll be cheering on for all my homies, and I just hope you all find wins. And as long as, unless it's against us, then you're an enemy. But that's all I got, Bepic.
Well, all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in on a Wednesday afternoon. I had to think about what day it was. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving with family or friends or whoever you're celebrating it with. We'll see you in a couple weeks for one of the final Collegiate Exclusive Podcast episodes of the fall. We'll probably reset the episode count, like do a second season. So this is season 1, episode 15, and do season 2 for the spring. Because this was, kind of the pilot semester. Like we started in April towards the end of last year's spring semester and have ramped up into this fall semester, which was really legitimately season 1 for us. Season 2 is going to be absolutely insane. Spring is going to go wild with all the LANs every other weekend, all the final championships, CECC, CRL spring. It's going to be great. So definitely follow me and TJ both on socials. I'm in the process of putting together a Collegiate Exclusive Twitter account as well. So definitely keep an eye out for when I actually do promo that. I'll probably have a lot of my CRL coverage pivot to that account. So that's what's going on here. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving, all right? We'll see you next time. Peace out, everyone.